In my world, Jerome was deemed a sure loser. Yet he proved everyone wrong. Chapter 58 Erica. All the scenes that unfold before seem strange to me. I was scared for a minute that he won't be able to win in the duel, but it seems like I was wrong. I was almost shedding tears when all of a sudden I saw him behave suspiciously. I stared at him for a while and it looked like he was having a conflicted battle within himself. He seems to be off and I knew it was only a matter of time before he would lose to Alpha Rider. I watched him being battered to the floor when all of a sudden he attacked back. He fought with Alpha Rider like a top-notch warrior. I knew that the training my father did with him yesterday doesn't go to waste. I felt like this is nothing but a good thing that things is going to take a turn with the training he did yesterday. I trained him alongside my dad, and not only that, Samuel joined also. They all wanted him to win in the duel and so do I. We all dedicated our night to train him harder, and he improved greatly, but seeing him battle with Ryder isn't so happy about. I feel like all this was caused by the head of the Werewolf Council. He seems to want things to go the way he wants. I feel like there is nothing I can do to stop the head council from making decisions like this in the future. I would be glad if things are able to take a good turn. Things won't be as bad as I thought and I will be glad for that. I watched as Jerome threw Alpha Rider out of the ring after hitting for some minutes. I couldn't help but feel happy about it. The whole crowd was cheering and I couldn't be more happy that I was. I turned to look at my dad with a smile on my face and he turned to look at me. I was happy that things turned my way and not only that I would be able to be with my mate. The happiness I was feeling had no bound. I stood up wanting to go to Jerome, but what happened next shook me to bone marrow. After being thrown away by Jerome, Alpha Rider doesn't want to accept defeat. He charged at him with anger, wanting to best Jerome, but he was fast enough to dodge his advance. And he threw him out of the ring after hitting him a few times again. My eyes were round with shock, not knowing what to do. I was glad that Jerome had defeated Alpha Rider again and he seems to be enraged by that. I knew that things might get out of hand if things aren't taken care of quickly. I felt my body shivering, not knowing what to do or say. I knew that if I was to go down there, then I might be reprimanded for getting in. I knew that this shouldn't be a threat to me, and most especially because I guess his lichens were awake. I was on my way to get Alpha Rider back to his senses since he lost already. I knew that the head council would have announced the winner, but he couldn't do that because of Ryder. I knew that no one was expecting Jerome to win against an alpha, and so do I, but remembering the part that he was made me shrug the thoughts out of my head. I suddenly felt the need to look up after a dangerous aura was released. And I immediately looked up only to see that Ryder had transformed into his werewolf form, and was glaring dangerously at Jerome. I knew for a fact that Jerome could be attacked at any moment from then. And with that I rushed toward Alpha Rider to stop him from hurting Jerome, but I was late because he had already charged forward to knock him out. But what happened next amazed me. I heard Jerome's voice and I saw Alpha Rider sit down while trying to break free from an attack. I knew with no doubt that he had used his lichen's power here. I looked around and I saw that everyone had their heads bowed except a few of the council members who were trying not to let their image get tarnished. I was glad that this had happened, even though I don't want this. I knew that him winning over Ryder isn't what Ryder can take in. He wanted to win and get back what he lost, but he can't be able to do that now. A smile broke on my face and I turned to look at him. I knew that there was no way the council wouldn't punish Ryder for what he had done, and I knew that the Werewolf Council would have no choice but to do that. I saw Jerome fall to the ground and I dashed toward him with fear, not knowing what to do. My eyes were filled with tears as I walked toward him, and I lifted him up from the ground immediately. Jerome won the duel, and Alpha Rider would be punished for what he did. I heard the voice of the head council said, and I hissed angrily. I rushed toward the Pax infirmary with fear etched on my face. I couldn't believe that the head council had done what he did. He shouldn't have stopped things before it went out. He had allowed Ryder to attack him the second time and he didn't interfere. Call me the doctor. I yelled immediately. I got to the hospital and I headed toward the private ward which was meant for me and my family. I dropped him on the bed waiting for the Pax doctor to arrive, and he died within seconds after I had dropped him on the bed. Alpha, you need to leave the room. I want to run some tests on him, I heard the Pax head doctor say, and I turned to look at him with fire blazing in my eyes. To my agent extraordinaire, Madame Nogan, Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You need to be out of the room. You won't let him concentrate. I heard the voice my mum said behind me. I sighed heavily before walking out of the room, not saying a word. All that was on my mind was if Jerome would be fine. I was glad that things turned out in our favor. I knew that there was no way he would die, but I couldn't help but feel worried. How dare he? He lost the match and was still attacking Jerome. I would make sure I make him pay, I said while pacing to and fro. Where is Samuel and my dad? Staring at Victoria, who seemed to be lost in thoughts. They are still in the packed square. Everyone isn't happening with what Alpha Rider did. He was going to be punished. Victoria replied respectfully, and I stared at her with a frown on my face. Inform my dad that he shouldn't do anything about the issue. Tell them I will be there soon, I said to Victoria, who nodded her head. She linked them, and I knew that because her eyes glazed over for some minutes. I stared at the door waiting for the doctor to walk out, but I didn't see him. You don't have to worry, everything will be all right. I heard Victoria's voice say behind me, and I turned to look at her with anger in my eyes. I couldn't believe she would say something like this. You should keep shut when your opinion isn't asked, I said angrily while glaring at her. I saw her face turn to that of an unhappy person, but I didn't care at that moment. All my mind was on Jerome. I felt like this is something that would have been stopped on time if the werewolf had intervened. I feel all this was his fault. I couldn't help but wonder why Alpha Rider wanted to end him. I knew that it can't be because of what had happened. I knew that he might have wanted to win the duel to be with me, but him isn't something that I approve of. I feel like all this was caused by the head counsel, who had insisted on going with the plan of making him fight in the duel. I knew things would have been better if it weren't for what had happened. The tax doctor walked out of the room, and I rushed to him with a worried expression on my face. You don't have to worry. He's just exhausted, and will be up soon. I can't say when, but he needs to rest. You can come back to check on him later, I heard the PAX doctor say, and I stared at him with a look of relief on my face. The doctor walked away, and I turned to look at my back to see my mum staring at me with an unexplainable expression on her face. I stared at her keenly, not knowing what I did wrong. She looked away from me, and there I traced her gaze, and it landed on Victoria, and I suddenly felt a thug in my heart. I knew that I had to apologize for yelling at her. I knew that I shouldn't have yelled at her, but there was nothing I could do about it at that moment. I knew that I would have to apologize to her. Chapter 59, Erica. I walked out of the infirmary angrily, with Victoria following behind me. She seemed to be angry, and I knew I was the cause of that. My whole body was in confusion, not knowing what to do. My eyes were filled with hate which was going toward Ryder. I knew that it hurt his ego to be beaten by an Omega, but that doesn't mean he should be after his life. I knew that if he was in Jerome's shoes, then he would have done the same regardless of his status. I was angry that all this happened under that mode of the Werewolf Council, and they were unable to do a thing about it. It was like they were waiting for the time when he would hurt Jerome before any of them would interfere. I could feel myself getting angrier every minute. I feel like this is nothing but a setup. I want to believe that things were different. I was filled with rage as we walked toward the place where they were. They have left the Pack Square for a secluded place, and I knew that they were doing all this to make sure anyone who is not entitled to hear their conversation isn't hearing what they were discussing. I knew that this is being done mostly because of Alpha Rider, who had almost hurt Jerome. I knew that the Werewolf Council wouldn't want to punish him because he didn't hurt him, but I knew that he would have done that if not for Jerome using his auras. I walked closer to where they were with an angry look on my face. It is an offense to go against the words of the Werewolf Council, and Ryder just did that. I doubt if it will be possible for him to scale through and hurt. I knew that might happen, but I won't allow it. Things won't go as they have planned. I will make sure that things go the way I want. I won't allow any of them to have the slightest chance of bullying me. I won't allow them to use their status on me. I will make sure that they have no choice other than to punish him. What did you display out there, hun? You attacked him again after you have lost, I said angrily as soon as I got there, while glaring dangerously at him. His body was stiff as he stared at me. I couldn't believe that he would do something like this. I knew that he was capable of this, but I didn't know he would stoop so low to attack Jerome after he had against him. I knew that he was the reason why Jerome was in hospital, and I couldn't help but blame him because of ITH. I felt like all what had happened to Jerome would have been if he didn't attack him again after winning. I'm glad Jerome won, but seeing that he was sent to the hospital after holding himself against an alpha, and not only that he had unlocked his Lycan's power. I knew that if Ryder isn't consistent then this wouldn't have happened. I knew I wanted him to unlock his powers, but not in this way. He got hurt, and that is because it was forced. I knew that what Ryder had done made his wolf to resurface, and I felt like he had done me a great thing, but I don't want to accept it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You need to calm down. He didn't attack him to kill him, nor did he hurt him after he lost the duel. He had attacked him back because I had ordered him to, I heard the head of the council said, and I stared at him for a while with wide eyes. I can't believe what he just said. My eyes widened in shock, and I couldn't help but think that all this was planned. What? I exclaimed while staring at him with wide eyes. I couldn't believe that he would do something like that and also admit to it. I then knew that all this was a plan. They planned on killing Jerome to make me he with Ryder. My eyes bulged out in shock, and that also goes to Victoria and my dad. They were all surprised, and I felt the need to strangle the head council. Other members of the council doesn't seem to be aware of what is going on. They were all surprised to know that the head council had planned all this all along. You planned on killing my mate, and here you are sitting down comfortably. I can't believe you are this evil. I voiced out after a while. I had recovered from the initial shock, and I'm not ready to lose any chance to him again. I'm going to send him away from my pack, and he will never be welcome in this pack again. Listen, young lady. I won't tolerate you spouting out nonsense from your loosed mouth. I have heard enough of your words. I have reasons for what I had done. The head of the council, who happens to be Otis. I could feel my heart stopped beating immediately I heard his words. I felt my body froze with fear, and I couldn't help but wonder why that happened to me. I knew that this might have happened because I had said a word against him. I felt bad that I had yelled at him, but there is nothing I could do. I knew that I shouldn't feel guilty for the man who had almost killed my mate. I knew that he might not be the one who did it initially, but I knew that he was the one who told Ryder to do so. You have reasons for trying to kill him. You have reasons to justify your actions. I knew you will support him, but I don't know you will also be involved in all these. I spat out venomously as I stared at him with hatred. I know that you are angry with me, but at least hear him out. I heard Ryder say, and I turned to look at him with fire blazing in my eyes. You still have the right to speak after almost killing my mate, I said with a pause, and I turned to look at Otis with pain evident in my eyes. This duel is a planned one, and you wanted to use the medium to kill my mate, I aired while pain evident in my eyes. The council membership were shocked to experience all that was happening, and they were speechless. They weren't expecting things like this. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Stop all this. Let's hear him out, I heard my dad said, and I grumpy while stare at him without saying a word. I know you all aren't expecting this. You wanted me to tell you the truth. I have known from the start that your mate isn't going to be an ordinary person. I knew your mate would be strong, and the first time I saw Jerome I knew he was strong because something was off with him, Otis said, and I sneered at him angrily. I knew that he was only doing this to cover up the truth. I knew that he isn't someone to mess with, and I don't want your pack falling weak. And I decided to help you out, Otis added, and Jay stared at him in shock, not knowing what to say. I knew for sure that no one is going to believe his cocktails story to cover up what he had done. You decided to help me by starting the duel. You wanted to help me by making my mate lose, I said while staring at him disgustingly. I knew that he would sell anything to be with you, and the duel was the only option that came to my mind. I had saw how he was willing to be with you, and I have it in mind for him to be with you even if you lose the duel. I had saw that he was at the edge of something, and that he was confused at the end of the duel. I then ordered him to attack him again while taunting him. He did that, and he was able to unlock his hidden part, which I had noticed earlier. There is no way an alpha would be paired to an omega alpha, Otis said, but I was still not convinced it was about talking when he started talking again. I have heard lots of stories about it, and it ended up that the mate of the alpha is strong. I knew this would eventually happen. All I do was to make him look worthy. I helped him unlock his hidden powers. Ryder here did nothing other than to follow my order. I knew your pack members isn't in support of this, but that is the only way to make them know that he was worthy. Do you think it's easy for him to lose to him? He knew he would lose eventually, but he still want to go on with the duel without minding the rumors that would be caused if that was to happen. Alpha Otis said him with that he stood up from where he was seated. He walked toward Ryder, who looked embarrassed with the whole thing, and he walked away with Alpha Otis. I knew that what he had just said not to long us right. There is no way someone who had knew he would fail still go on with it, if not that he was ordered by someone. I guess my job here is done, Alpha Ryder said, and he bowed his head before leaving. Chapter 60. Otis Lucas. I wasn't happy with the development that happened, but I knew that I had to do something. I was on it when I heard a commotion outside my room. I had told the guards to bring Alpha Ryder to my room. I knew that this isn't the right thing to do right now, but I had to do it anyway. I had to find ways to bring him to my room after he told me we needed to talk. I knew that things won't work out as I have wanted after he had been defeated. I knew that he shouldn't have attacked Jerome again since he had lost and he had changed into his wolf form, and what excuse can I give about it? I have none. I walked out of the room and I headed toward the direction of the noise, and it turned out that it was Ryder. I couldn't help but be more angry that he had even caused a commotion outside my house after he had just made a mistake at the battlefield. I knew that things wouldn't have happened like this if he didn't attack again. I felt angry and I walked toward him angrily, not bothering what would happen. What's going on here? I asked immediately when I got there, and one of the guards I told to bring him to my room bowed his head before replying. He is trying to break free from us, he replied, and I felt my anger rise to its peak. Bring him to my room. Immediately I said while staring at him with anger in my eyes. I walked back to my room angrily with fire blazing in my eyes. And Ryder was thrown into my room. I was glad that there was no one around, and I knew that because I had mined, begged my God to scout the place for any unknown person who had sneaked in, and I was glad for that. How dare you do that? I didn't tell you that to attack him again, and now you did. I've told you to maintain your cool, but you spoiled it, I said to him, and he rolled his eyes skeptically at me. I knew that he was doing all this because we had both planned something out, and I knew things might get bad if he was to keep doing like this. You also didn't tell me that he was this strong. He made everyone bow to him at the pack square, and you did. I heard him say, and my eyes turned red with anger, not knowing what to do. I knew that I should do nothing that will make anyone suspect us, and I will do that, but I don't think I will be able to do so if he is still around me. I knew that he might do something that would make me angry, and I might do something that I might regret later. What do you say or do to make him angry? I asked while staring at him intently. I told him that his mate would be mine. When we are still fighting, he said, and I couldn't help but feel angry. He had made him unlock his Lycan's powers by taunting him. I knew that there is nothing I would be able to do to stop him if Erica is involved. You will have won the duel if you didn't get Erica involved. You made him angry and you expect him to lose. You should be more careful next time, I yelled at him angrily while glaring daggers at him, and he stared at me with confusion in his eyes. What do you mean by that? He asked, but I ignored him. You will have to carry your cross alone. I can't help you this time, I said, and he sneered at me while staring at me disdainfully. I would have killed him if not that I don't want anyone to be aware of the fact that I was involved in all this. You think I will just let you ruin my life like this? I won't give you a chance. You might be the council leader, but things would get better if I decided to spill everything out, he said, and I stared at him with my eyes turning red with anger. I knew that things won't be easy and that it would take a lot of effort to shake him out of my trials. I knew that he would want to find ways to drag me down with him. I should have known that all this would have happened, and I would have stopped it before it's too late. I will find a way to sort things out. You should not worry, but you need to play along with me when we are with the others, I said to him, and with that we dispersed. Here I was with Alpha Ryder, whose face was filled with smiles. He couldn't help but keep thanking me, but I wasn't interested in that. I was still angry with what he had done. I felt like he would have betrayed me if I hadn't found a way. And I'm glad to have found a way to tame Erica. I knew that if I had given her the chance to be consistent while talking to me, then things wouldn't have been like this. Erica would have found out the truth, and I have made up my mind to always find people who won't betray me. I want those that will be loyal to me even in their death. I don't want weak people like Ryder who won't hesitate to say all the secrets he has with someone else if tortured. I had wanted TK recruit him to work for me, but seeing the way he behaved made things change. I knew that the only thing that I can do to repay his service is to help him out, but that will be the last time I would be doing that. You aren't trustworthy and I regret ever trying to make you work things out. You are just a weak helper who's trying to make himself look great. I said to him, and I saw his eyes turned red with fury. I knew that he wasn't expecting me to say things like this, but that is what it is. There is nothing he would do about it. You should make sure you stay away from me if you don't want to regret ever meeting me, I said to him while glaring daggers at him. I had released my auris and it choked on it for a while before he was able to breathe properly. Get going. I don't want to see your face anymore, I said to him with authority in my voice, and he stared at me for a while before walking away. I knew that things won't be as great as I want since he had destroyed my chance to get him away from Erica, but instead, I knew that if he had done his job diligently then all won't have happened. I'm more sad that he had recovered his powers. I felt bad, and I knew that if he hadn't taunted him then things would have been better. Jerome won't have recovered his powers earlier, but he had spoiled it. I felt angry and all I wanted that moment was to strangle him, but I knew I have to let things go. I would have to make some new plans to dominate him, and I have to be real quick at it. I knew that he was only fighting with his Lycan's instincts, and I knew that if he was to get trained like he should have, then things won't have to be like I want. I knew that he was being trained by Erica's father, and had once trained with a mage master when he was young. I knew that training Jerome is going to make things bad for me, and I knew the only way to do that is to kill him before he can be able to recover from all that has been done to him. I know I have to act fast. I walked back to my room dejectedly, not knowing what to do. I knew that if I was to kill him then I would have to make sure he was awake. I knew that he would be protected by Erica and her guards when he is still unconscious, and I knew that if he was awake then, he would be the only one in his room and it would be easy for them to kill him silently. I slammed the door behind me as soon as I walked into my room. I have it in mind to have a cold shower before deciding on who to send on the mission to kill Jerome. I knew that his wolf might help him, and I have to be conscious about it. And I would have to send more than one person to attack him. I need to kill him as quickly as possible. Chapter 61. Mabel lies sat on my bed wallowing in thoughts. My eyes were filled with unshed tears as I ruminate over what had happened in Erica's pack. What happened isn't what I had expected, but I knew that there was nothing I could do other than to watch as things unfold. It hurt me to know that Jerome was given a chance to be with Erica. I felt my heart being ripped apart, and all I could feel was pain. The pain of my mate leaving me, and now Jerome. I knew that I should have been over him a long time ago, but I'm not. I could still feel myself getting attached to him. I couldn't help but wonder if the moon goddess had made all this happen purposely because I have made a mistake in my first life. I couldn't help but wonder if things are going to return to how they were before. And I knew that it cannot return to how it was before, and there is nothing that would make it return. I knew that all I could do was move on with my life, but what happened then was still on my mind. I couldn't take it off my head. It was as if it was glued to my head. I can't seem to take the scene out of my mind. I could remember the auras that came out of his body when the alpha changed into his werewolf form. I can't remember the void inzes in his eyes. He surprised me by winning against the alpha. And not only that, he did it twice. He threw the alpha out of the ring twice, and what I couldn't take out of my head is the scene of him making everyone present bow to him. And there are only a few remaining who were present that didn't bow to him. I couldn't help but wonder how he was able to be strong like that to make alphas bow to him. The last time I remember he was an omega, and I couldn't help but think that all that happened because his mate is an alpha. But I doubt if it's possible. I sighed heavily as I stood up from the bed, and I walked toward the window, staring out through the window. I stared at the moon, which shone brightly, and it illuminated the tears that were steaming down my face. I couldn't help but wonder why I was crying. I walked toward the bed sadly, and I got under the duvet with the intention of sleeping, but I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing to and fro while trying to find ways to sleep. But I couldn't. My eyes were filled with confusion as I dragged the duvet over my head. And I closed my eyes while breathing softly while trying to find ways to remove the image which seems to be stuck to my head, but I couldn't. I sighed heavily as I dragged the duvet away from my head, and I stood up while switching on the light with a frown on my face. I was sitting on the bed, and suddenly I heard a whiff sound heading into my room. I looked around while on high alert. My eyes were wide open and I bolted toward the direction of the lamp, and I switched it on to see an arrow heading into my room speedily. I slid on the floor watching as the arrow impaled itself on the wall. I stood up with shaky breaths, not knowing what to do. I couldn't help but wonder what it was. I knew that something or someone was in my room, and with that thought in my head I looked around trying to see what made the sound. I wasn't able to think straight. My mind was in a disarray. My body froze with shock as my eyes landed on an arrow which was impaled on the wall. I shivered as I stared at the arrow, not knowing what to do. I knew that my life was in danger, but I couldn't help but wonder who I had offended that would want to kill me. I knew that I haven't offended anybody, and why I would be wanted dead doesn't make sense. My eyes glazed over as I saw something attached to the string of the arrow. I walked toward the arrow shakily while staring around to be sure that this isn't the sole kind of trap, and I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw that there was no one around. I pulled the letter away from the arrow and I immediately stepped back, knowing that some kind of surprise might come with that. I glanced around with fear again, wanting to be sure that there was no one around. My eyes were wide open and my ears were at high alert. I opened the letter and what I saw shocked me to my bone marrow. I couldn't help but draw back in shock. My eyes were filled with nervousness. The letter came from the head counsel who had told Sylvie to inform Jerome to back out of the duel. He had told me that Jerome would be beaten and might get killed in the fight, but none of it happens. My eyes were filled with anger. I couldn't believe that the one who told me that Jerome would be killed just sent me a letter through an error. What was he thinking when he sent me a letter? I knew for a fact that the head counsel must have sent someone who was around here to send me the letter. I couldn't help but wonder why someone like that would still send me a letter. He had lied to me about getting beaten or killed. I knew that he was being beaten at the beginning of the match, and I was glad that not until the table turned around, and the person who was expected to beat him got beaten and humiliated. And not only that, he made everyone present submit to him. I will need your help soon. I know that things go south this time, but next time he won't escape it. If you dare try to back out, or you dare try to spill all this out, count yourself dead. My eyes were filled with shock as I finished reading the letter. My blood turned cold and I sat on the bed while trying to process everything that was happening. My eyes were furrowed into confusion, not knowing what to do. I couldn't believe that he would someday threaten me. I felt my heart ache knowing that all this would have been avoided if I had followed Sandra's word. She told me not to go to Erica's pack, but I did. I walked toward the bed and I sat down while ruminating over what was happening. My gaze hardened as I stared at the arrow which was still impaled on the wall. I knew that the head counsel doesn't care about me but himself. I knew that there was nothing I could do to go against him. All he cares about is nothing other than getting his wish done. I knew that he didn't want Jerome to be with Erica. I knew that I should be happy that he doesn't want Jerome to be with Erica, but I knew that his ways might be extreme. I knew that he might harm Jerome, which I don't want. I don't know why I'm getting worried about him after all he has done. Chapter 60 to Jerome. I couldn't help but wonder why everyone was acting cool like nothing happened. I knew that things must have been settled between everyone, so I didn't bother asking. It has been a day since the duel ended and I was glad I won. I was a bit confused about who I am, but remembering what if I knew that there is something that I need to do. I knew that I would have to train myself, but I doubt if that would be possible since I have no one here to teach me. I knew that things won't turn out to be like that of yesterday when I misused my powers. I would have been able to get a grip of myself instead of using my powers at the pack square. I knew that I needed someone to teach me how to control myself and my powers. I knew that if I keep staying like this, then things won't add up and I might end up getting bad. I might keep misusing my powers on the pack members. I stood up from where I was seated and I made my way toward Erica's office. I knew that can now be her husband and also the alpha of this pack, but none of us has initiated the plan to want to do the mating ceremony. I knocked softly on the door and immediately Erica saw that I was the one at the door. She ushered me in. Good afternoon. Erica, I greeted, and she smiled at me before replying. Good afternoon. Erica replied while staring at me with a questioning look on her face. I knew for a fact that she was wondering why I was here in her office. I was hoping if you can help me find someone to train me. I don't want to lose control of my powers anymore, I said, and she chuckled. I was going to tell you that also, but I want you to rest. I have talked to my dad about you and your powers. And he had told me that he would help train you, Erica replied, and I stared at her for a while with a confused look on my face before replying. I thought that you would be the one to train me, I said with a confused look on my face. My dad has been trained by a mage like him before. And I didn't tell him about you before. I don't know about it also not until I told him you are, she replied, and I nodded my head knowing she was right. Oh, I will take my leave, I said, and I walked out of her office. You will have to start your training tomorrow. You can't start today. You need to rest, I heard her say, and I nodded my head. I walked back into my room and I took a nap, and by the time I woke up it was already dark. And I knew with no doubt that the time schedule for dinner was over. I stood up from the bed and I walked toward the bathroom to have a shower. My eyes landed on a tray of food which was laying on the mini table that was in my room. I knew that Erica must have been the one who brought the food to my room. I feel my heart swell up with love and adoration. I couldn't control the feeling that was building inside of me. It was like a widespread fire which spread speedy. My lips were curved into a smile, and I walked into my bathroom to have a shower. I walked out of the shower feeling refreshed with a towel tied on my waist. Water was dripping down my hair, and I sighed heavily as I walked toward my closet. I took out a pair of clothes and I wore them. I carried the food from the table and I devoured it within minutes. I stood up from the bed and I walked toward the window staring at the sky. I could see the stars and I smiled while watching the stars shine brightly. I was starting to feel sleepy and I walked toward my bed. I slept on my bed, and before I knew it I slept off. I woke up to the creeping sound of the window and I stood up abruptly with a frown on my face. I switched on the light immediately, and I looked around trying to know who or what made the sound. I hissed out loudly as I switched off the light. I was glad that there was no one in my room. I had thought that someone came into my room. I couldn't help but feel uneasy immediately when I got under the covers of the duvet. I couldn't shake the feeling off my mind, and I was starting to get worried. I opened my eyes while staring around with an unknown expression on my face. I sighed heavily while trying to get back to sleep, and after a while I was able to calm myself, and I was about to sleep when I heard the sound of things crashing in my room. I knew that this time I'm not hearing things. And with the look of things I knew that something is wrong. I knew that this time someone is in my room. I knew that whoever the person is, that person isn't here to play. I knew that the person with no doubt is after my life. I could smell danger in the air and I did all I could to keep my calm. I could sense the presence in my room, and with that I bolted toward the direction of the light and I switched it on. I haven't been able to contact my wolf after I was awake. And I knew with no doubt that my wolf had gone into hiding just like before. I felt my breath itch immediately when the light came on. My eyes widened with shock, unable to process what was happening. Here in my front are some men dressed in black with their eyes glowing. Strange auras were emitting out of their bodies. They stared at me menacingly and I moved back with fear, not knowing what to do or say. What the hell are you doing here? I asked as I moved back with fear, and they chuckled before walking towards me with a smirk on their face. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Isn't this the same person who had won the duel against Alpha Rider? One of the masked men said, and I stared at them knowing that things won't add up. I think we are mistaken. He doesn't look like someone who can take on an alpha, one of them said, taunting lie, and I stared at them with confusion in my eyes. What the hell are you doing here? I asked, staring at them, and they rolled their eyes. I knew with no doubt that they weren't here to play. I bet you can talk. But by the time we are done with you will regret the day you were born, another one said, with one of them charging at me with his sword. The one who charged at me aimed at my head, and I used my hands to stop the sword from hitting my head. My eyes were contorted into a frown as I saw blood dripped out of my hands. I winced in pain as the sword was removed from my hand without care. My eyes were filled with anger, and I turned to look at the person who had hit me with the sword. I punched the person in his stomach angrily and he flew back, hitting his back on the wall. Chapter 63. Erica. I was asleep in my room when I suddenly felt a thug in my heart. I was now awake, but I didn't stand up. I was ignoring the airing feeling I was having in my body. I stared around the place with a frown on my face. I knew that I was deep asleep, but how I can wake up now is something I don't understand. I feel like there's something going on. I feel some weird feelings in my gut. I was feeling uncomfortable and I stood up immediately while removing the duvet from my body. I could feel pains in my heart. And I knew with no doubt that something is definitely going on with Jerome. I feel like he is in danger. And I could hear his fear. And I could also smell the dangers which were lingering in the air. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. It was like the feeling was stuck to my mind and hearing. I knew that I had to check up on him to be sure that he was all right. And with that I stood up from my bed and I headed toward his room. A frown was plastered on my face. Immediately I heard the sounds of things crashing, and the smell of rogues. My eyes were filled with shock, not knowing what to do or say. I felt my body stiffens. I knew that he was in danger and I was glad that I got here on time. I knew that he might have no chance against since he hasn't mastered his powers. I knew that the rogues must have known about it. I opened the door to his room. Immediately I got to his room, and I was shocked with what I saw. I saw Jerome being held down by some rogues, and one of them, who seems to be their leader, has a sword in his hands which had blood dripping down. I knew that that blood belonged to Jerome, and I stared at his arm to see that he had a cut on his hand. No one noticed my presence until I dashed toward the man who seemed to be their leader. I wanted to decapitate the head of the leader, but I ended up burying my claws into the heart of one of the rogues, who took the blow for their leader. They were not aware of my presence and I stared at them, waiting for the best opportunity to attack. I could see the rogues clenching onto Jerome's hand, who was trying to break free from their grasp. They all turned their attention to me, but those who were holding the hands of Jerome still held on tightly with fear. They were literally shaking as they stared at me, but they tried hard to mask it. "You should leave when you still have the chance," I said calmly while scrutinizing my eyes as I stared at them with a hint of anger. I was trying to control myself after seeing the blood of my mate. It was like a twig snap and I almost lost control of myself. I knew that if I was to act based on my anger, then things won't go as I want. I knew that I might get hurt while trying to fight them off irrationally. "Look who's talking. You are outnumbered and will get hurt. I would advise you to leave now before you get hurt," one of them said, and they all laughed. "Okay. I will leave just like you have said," I said, and with that I turned to leave. I knew that they might have thought that I was leaving, and I knew that I'm at advantage because they do not know that I'm the alpha of this pack. I glanced at Jerome and I could see the look of shock which was morphed on his face. I knew that he wasn't expecting me to leave him alone in the hands of the rogues. I signaled to him to free himself while I attacked them unexpectedly. They had all turned to look at Jerome after seeing how intimidated I was when they talked to me. I charged at them unexpectedly, releasing my Alphasaurus. They were surprised at that, but before they could retaliate, Jerome and I were fighting them. They were in shock to even have the chance to attack us. After a few minutes there was only one of them left, and the person seemed to be their leader. "Who sent you?" I asked, staring at their rogue's leader, who chuckled. "I will rather die than tell you who sent us," the rogue's leader replied, and I smiled while staring at him. "By the time I'm done with you, you'll regret ever messing with me," I replied, and with that I carried him while walking toward the direction of the pack's house with anger written vividly in my eyes. "Where are you taking him to?" Jerome asked while walking behind me as he tried to keep up with my pace, but I didn't reply. "Somewhere he will regret going to. He will have no choice other than to answer my questions. He will be begging me by the time I'm done with him," I said with a look of seriousness in my eyes. I knew for a fact that there is no way the rogue won't tell me who sent him after I'm done with this. I knew that it was likely that the rogues were sent from Alpha Rider. I knew he wasn't happy with the fact that Jerome won against him. I knew that I might be wrong with the accusations, but I wanted to confirm it. I knew that it wouldn't be good if I accused him without evidence. I knew that what the head counsel had told me yesterday about Alpha Rider working for him is right, but I doubt if Alpha Rider would work hand in hand with someone who wanted to help my mate. I knew that Alpha Rider isn't someone who can easily be swerved in by someone. I knew that there must be something going on between the both of them, but I have no say in it. There is no way I will say I'm suspecting the head counsel. I knew that no one would support me. Everyone would think I have gone insane, and no one would want to have anything to do with me. I knew that those who would support me are no other people than those who know me. I knew that my parents would support me, and the same with my beta and gamma. They all know that Alpha Rider isn't someone who should be trusted easily because he is someone who does things that one doesn't think, as and I knew he must be the one who sent the rogues. I knew that I might know or have the hunch that he was the one, but I won't stand unless I have concrete evidence. You better start talking now, I said as the rogue smiled at me with a smirk on his face. None of this would work. You will be wasting your time, I heard him say, and I smirked at him, evidently knowing that he won't be able to withstand it. I knew that no one who had been able to hold him or herself against my torture, and I knew that he wouldn't be excluded. Chapter 64 Jerome. I was shocked at how Erica was torturing the rogue. I knew that I shouldn't be feeling anything for the rogue, and that I should be happy for what he had done, but I'm not. I'm not happy with everything going on. My eyes were contorted into a frown as I watched everything unfold. I was glad and happy to know that Erica cares for me. She cares for me and I'm happy for that. And I will do everything in my power to make her happy. All I want is to always make her happy. I knew that she wouldn't have been this mad if it wasn't that the rogues attacked me. I knew that there was something the rogues were hiding. How can a rogue be this strong-headed when being tortured? I knew that the rogues were sent by someone, but the loyalty of this man to the person responsible for this is something else. I knew for a fact that there is no way one would stay loyal to one's master until death unless there is something else involved. I couldn't help but wonder if there is a blood covenant between the both of them, but I knew that there is no such like since the person is an ordinary rogue. I knew that the person who sent them must have promised him something for him to stay loyal up till now. I stared at the face of the rogue whose face was filled with blood. My eyes were filled with adoration. I also stared at her. My eyes were on her as she tortured the man. My eyes were not leaving her body until I saw the impossible. The rogue who has been beaten on the floor hijacked Erica's torture knife, and he aimed it at Erica. I rushed toward her with fear, and I ended up getting stabbed instead of her. I smiled at her as I stared at her. Tears were dripping down my face as I stared at Erica. She was shocked and was unable to comprehend what just happened, and she was in a daze and stared at me with shock. She was confused about what just happened, but there was nothing she could do again. She stared at me with her mouth wide. I was stabbed at my back, and I was hovering over Erica. She was staring at me with unknown emotions swirling in her body. I turned to look in the direction of the rogue who had a satisfactory smirk on his face. I glared at the rogue with anger in my eyes. My eyes were filled with pain, and all I could do was stare at the rogue. The rogue's eyes were not leaving mine, and he chuckled heartily. It is a great thing I finished what I came here for, and I also have the chance to avenge the death of my fellow colleagues. Don't worry, I will meet you there, but first go and wait for me, I heard him said, and I sighed heavily while watching the man slit his throat with the knife which was in his hands. Jerome, are you all right? I heard Erica's voice, which snapped me out of my thoughts, and there I stared at her. She was close to tears, and I knew that it wouldn't be long before she would start crying. I felt my breath twitched with shock as I watched the tear which trying to hold in fall freely. It is okay. You don't have to worry. I'm glad you are okay, I mouthed to Erica, and she shook her head sadly. No, you shouldn't have taken the knife from me. It will be okay if I die, but I can't bear seeing you like this, she said, and I smiled sadly as my hands to run her hair softly. She had placed me on the ground floor, and she was hovering over me. She had tear-stained eyes. She brought her lips close to mine, and we met. I savored the taste of her mouth, and all I want at that moment is to continue kissing her. She wanted to break off the kiss, but I didn't let her. She carried me softly, and she was about to walk away when I felt something different. I couldn't feel the pains I was feeling earlier, and I knew with no doubt that something different was going on in my body. Drop me. I will be fine, I said to Erica, and she stared at me like I had grown to heads. No, you won't. You need to be attended to, she said again, and I sighed heavily before replying to her. I will be fine. You need to trust me, I said again, but this time she stared at me for a while, and she dropped me gently on the ground. I groaned in pain as she carried me down. My eyes were filled with pain. You should know not to cause any trouble. I won't have helped you if not for the fact that you took the stab for our mate. You should be careful next time because I might not be there to take away your pain. I still haven't recovered fully from your last wound, I heard my wolf say, and I smiled happily knowing that things would be different. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help, I said to my wolf. I was happy that things turned out to be great. I knew for a fact that there is no way I would survive if Erica was the one who was stabbed. I knew that I would have survived it with or without my wolf's help. And same with Erica, but I won't be able to forgive myself. I would hate myself for not being able to save her. I knew that this wasn't something I should be happy about, but I am happy for this. I'm glad that Erica was all right, and that there is nothing wrong with neither of us. I'm glad that things turned out to be great. The wounds on my body were starting to heal, and I knew that it would be completely healed within minutes. I knew that I would have to rest a lot to be able to regain my strength. My eyes were closed. Jerome, are you all right? I heard Erica's voice, and I was about to open my eyes when I suddenly felt her slap me. My cheek stings from the slap, and I suddenly thought of something. I smirked inwardly, knowing that Erica would be shocked at the turn of things. I could feel something wet hit my face, and I couldn't help but feel a tug in my heart. I could feel myself wanting to hold her in my hands and console her, but I tried hard to control myself. Jerome, no, you can't do this, I heard her say, and she turned my back to her. I could hear her sniffling, and not only that, I could feel her tears hitting my back softly. I wasn't expecting her to cry like this. I have always heard lines that she cries, but I haven't thought of something like this. I was shocked to know that she was crying because she thought I was dead. I feel bad knowing that all this was an act. I wanted to laugh out loud at her hearing that she had been pranked, but I knew not to do that. I feel like things will be different from now on. I knew that she cares about me a lot. What? Your wounds are healed. I heard her voice again in a croak-y voice, and I knew with no doubt that I had been caught. You have been putting up an act since. I heard her say, and she started hitting my chest angrily, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. She wasn't happy with the fact that I had lied to her, and not only that, but I had seen her cry. Chapter 65. Otis. It came as a shock to me to know that those that I sent to kill Jerome died. I couldn't believe that he was the one who killed them, and was right, because before their leader died he told me that he was helped by a female. And I knew with no doubt that the person was Erica. I knew she was the only one who could help him at that crucial time. I feel angry, but knowing that there is nothing I can do about it. It hurt me knowing that I would have to wait till his powers would be cultivated before I can attack again. I couldn't help but wonder what they were doing before Erica came. I knew that there is no way they wouldn't have him in their grasp before Erica came to help him. I knew that they didn't do their job just like I had sent them. They must be taunting him, since that was what they liked most. I knew that I made a huge mistake by sending them. They were rogues which I had released from the cell. They were nothing but useless rogues. I had intended on releasing them after they got my job done. I knew that I should have killed them when I had the chance. I knew that Erica would want to torture them, but I knew that none of them would say a word. They won't be able to say a word because their families are here. Their leader is still here, and he is the one who is giving them the whole control and permission. I wasn't happy with the fact the rogues couldn't do their jobs. I had captured a whole pack of rogues, and I have promised them to make them a pack. They won't be rogues anymore, but they would have their own pack under their alpha. I had thought that they would want that, but they don't. I had told them that after they have collected their freedoms, then they will always obey me. They would be at my neck and call, but all that went to waste. I knew I had no choice other than to pull my last resort. I knew that the rogues might fail again if they were given a chance, and I'm going to give them the chance. I won't hesitate to kill all of them if they fail again. I knew that I should be able to put another plan into action if the rogues failed. And with that I sent Mabel a letter. I know that she is the only person who can help me when the time comes. She is someone who can't be spotted easily. There is nothing that she would do that would be spotted. She would do whatever I wanted her to do without anyone knowing. She would act like my secret agent. I know she won't be willing to help me, but I'm going to go any mile to get her to do what I want. I knew that she wouldn't be willing and would not want to work with me. I knew that whatever I needed to do should be done. I would threaten her if she tried to back out of everything. She would regret ever trying to back out. I would make sure that she does nothing other than to follow my orders. I was in my office late at night sorting out some pack files when I suddenly heard a whiff sound, and suddenly it was followed by a creaking sound. I turned to look at the direction of the letter post box which was in the room. The letter post box is a box which letters are being thrown in by arrows. The arrows would be fired directly to the post box, and it would be left hanging. Few of the alphas know about it, and Erica was excluded. Those who know and have it are those that work for me. Few of the werewolf council have it. And that's because not all of them support me being their leader. They wanted a leader, but they didn't want a leader like me. They wanted someone less cruel than me. Someone who was considerate. I knew that it must have to be a pressing issue for someone to send me a letter through it. The post box is kept in a secretive place, and I have told everyone who is part of my clan, those who work for me, that no one should send me any letter unless it is about a pressing issue. Or something more secretive. I issued this post box not too long, and that was because someone sniffed in on what we usually send to ourselves. We use birds to send letters, so secretive lie, and someone had killed the bird. The person was a rogue. He wanted to eat the bird but stopped after reading the letter. I had to trace the person before killing him. I knew that the person was dangerous to us and might decide to harm us. I have told them that letters should be sent to me through birds if it's not something secretive. I walked toward the postbox hurriedly, wanting to know why I was sent the message. I knew that the letter must contain something serious. It has been a long time since I last sent a letter through the postbox. I hissed after I was done reading the letter. The letter came from Ryder. He was threatening to tell everyone about my secrets. I had filled him in everything, and he wanted to betray me since he wasn't in support of what I had told him. He isn't as cold-hearted as I have always thought he was. I thought he had the mind to do everything as long as he got what he wanted. I knew that I should stop him before he said anything, and the only way for me to be able to stop him is to kill his daughter. He has a daughter who is 2 years of age. His mate died while giving birth to his child, and it was all unknown to everyone because he claimed this killed by a rogue. Everyone believes that, and no one knew about his mate being pregnant or giving birth. Only a few people know about it, and I'm one of them. He had hired a private nanny to take care of her, and her nanny has been doing that. I knew that he loved his daughter and would do everything in his power to keep her safe. I knew that my only resort was to threaten him with his daughter. I knew that I wouldn't kill his daughter if he didn't want to listen to me. I knew that if I killed his daughter directly, then he might spit it out to everyone. I knew that me using his daughter to send messages to him would be the right thing. I would need to threaten him with his daughter's life, and make sure that his daughter was left to live. I need to make sure that his daughter lives for me to be in control of him. I know that all I need to do to be in control of him is to threaten him, and that's what I'm about to do. Chapter 66. Jerome. It has been weeks now since the incident happened. I've been developing more feelings for Erica, and things were moving smoothly like I have always wanted. I was now officially dating Erica. The incident that happened that day had made the two of us closer than we might think. I could see the way she was moved by what had happened that day. She had thought that she lost me. She was heartbroken, but she was glad that I didn't die. We have moved on from the incident, but I have been training hard to be sure that something like that does not happen again. I don't want to put Erica's life in danger. Her life was in danger that night because I let her do what I was supposed to do. She would have died that day if I didn't interfere as quickly as I could. Things would have gotten bad if I had not interfered, and I also knew that all that wouldn't have happened if I had done what I needed to do. I should have been the one who was torturing the man, but I was too weak emotionally and physically. That did not only put me at disadvantage but also put Erica's life in danger. I have promised myself to make sure that nothing of such happens again. I would do everything in my power to save Erica from any harm. I have been training hard with Erica's father, and I must comment that he is doing a great job. He had made things easier. He made everything easier for him, and I'm catching up with things. He has always made sure that I'm comfortable with his mode of training, and I'm in no way exposed to any harm. Everything seems to be moving smoothly, and I'm getting used to the pack. I don't in any way feel like this isn't the pack that I was born from. I feel like everything is like it is supposed to be. I feel happy and content to be with my mate and her family. They all treated me like I'm one of them, that I hardly feel like I am an orphan. I am glad for everything that is happening to me. I knew with no doubt that it was a blessing for me to be brought to this pack, and I regretted everything that I had said to Erica when she brought me to her pack. I feel like her pack is my home. I feel safe around everyone here. Here I am sweating heavy while walking back to my room. My room had been moved to the one next to Erica's. Erica was afraid that what happened the other day might occur again, and she doesn't want me to be hurt. I feel the need to keep loving her, and whenever I set my eyes on her it was always like I had been love-drowned. Things had been moving smoothly and there was nothing different. I walked into my room with a smile on my face. Tonight Erica and I are having a date in the woods, and I have to set everything before she returns. It was evening already, but there is still enough time for me to set everything up. I informed Samuel about it, and he had helped me with all the things I needed. I was glad for that, but he was busy, so he had sent someone to drop it at the location. I would have to set everything there by myself, and I see no harm in that. I knew that there is no way I would set it that I won't remember me doing the exact same thing when I was at my old pack. I would always remember me doing that. I would always remember me being infatuated with Mabel. I would always remember all the unreasonable acts that I had taken when I was in my old pack and when I first met Erica. I walked under the shower to have a cold bath, and I walked out of the bathroom after a while with a towel tied on my waist. Water was dripping down my hair. I sighed softly as my body dried, not excluding my hair. I wore my clothes and I walked out of my room to set the things I would be needing for the date. After an hour I was done with the preparations, and I was glad I told Erica about the date we were having tonight beforehand. I walked back home and headed toward my room to get ready for the date. It was getting dark already and Erica had returned home. I remind Erica about the date even though I knew that she can't forget something like that. I knew that the dates we go on are precious to her, just like it is to me. I made my way out of my room and walked into Erica's room without knocking. I knew that she would have been done with what she was doing since I took a lot of time while trying to make myself look presentable. I was shocked to know that she wasn't done, and she was still in the bathroom. I walked out of her room with a frown on my face, knowing that it would take a long time for her to be done. I stood at the door impatiently waiting to hear the sound of the door opening, but I didn't. I knew that it would take a long time for her to get dressed. "I will be in my room waiting for you," I yelled as I opened the door. I knew that she would hear me and that there was no way she would say she didn't hear me. It has been hours since I have been waiting in my room. I had thought that she would be in my room as quickly as possible, but she isn't. I knew that there is no way she wouldn't have been done with whatever she was doing. I stood up and walked out of my room. I knocked on her door gently, not daring to open the door knowing that she might still be naked. I knew that it wouldn't be good for me to enter her room without knocking. I knew that I had entered her room without knocking the door, but I thought that she would have been done. I knew that I might enter her room and find out she isn't done. "Come in. The door is not locked," I heard her say, and I reluctantly opened the door. My mouth was wide as I saw her on the bed while fondling her hands. I couldn't believe that she was done all this while and didn't come to my room. "Tu es agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "You are done, but you didn't bother to come to my room," I exclaimed while staring at her with my finger pointed at her. "Do you expect me to come to your room? Last I remember you are supposed to come get me. I finished dressing up hours ago," she said, and I stared at her with shock. "But I thought I told you to come to my room after you are done. You don't expect me to stay at the door forever," I said as I stared at her. "You would have stayed in your room if I didn't come to check up on you," I said again, and she smiled at me before nodding her head slowly. My eyes went round with shock as my eyes caught sight with the window. It was dark already, and her room was being illuminated by the lamp which was in her room. "I would have stayed all night waiting for you to come to my room. I was expecting you to come sooner, and I'm glad you are here," she said, staring at me with a smirk.